Here's a rewritten version of your script with smoother storytelling, stronger emotional impact, and better pacing while keeping the core message intact. I humiliated my husband at a neighborhood party. His response changed my life forever. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories like this. Your support means everything. For 11 years, I believed I had the perfect life. My husband, Tom, and I had built a loving home together. We were raising our 10-year-old daughter, Ella, and running a successful florist shop that had become a favorite in our community. On the surface, everything looked wonderful. But somewhere along the way, I became restless. Life felt predictable. The routines that once comforted me began to feel boring. My friend Lisa constantly encouraged me to live a little and seek excitement outside my everyday responsibilities. Slowly, I started listening. When Tom expressed concern about my late nights out and changing behavior, I dismissed him. I convinced myself he was being controlling when, in reality, he was trying to protect what we had. Then came the neighborhood block party. The evening was filled with music, laughter, and families enjoying themselves. After a few drinks, I began flirting openly with one of our neighbors, Greg. Encouraged by Lisa and fueled by attention, I didn't care who was watching. Including my husband. When Tom approached me and quietly asked if everything was okay, I responded in the worst possible way. Loud enough for everyone to hear, I mocked him. "Tom's just jealous because he's boring," I said. The crowd fell silent. A few people laughed awkwardly, but most looked uncomfortable. I still remember the expression on Tom's face. It wasn't anger. It was disappointment. And something else. Resolve. Without saying another word, he turned and walked away. At the time, I thought he was simply upset. I had no idea that moment would change our lives forever. Later that night, after returning home, Tom confronted me. His voice was calm. Too calm. "I found the messages," he said. My stomach dropped. He held up screenshots of texts between Greg and me. While nothing physical had happened, the conversations were deeply inappropriate. The flirting, the emotional intimacy, and the complaints I made about my husband crossed lines I had pretended didn't exist. I tried to laugh it off. "It's harmless." Tom didn't agree. For a long moment, he stared at me. Then he said words I'll never forget. "I'm done, Sarah." He packed a bag and walked out the door. Just like that. The house suddenly felt empty. I barely slept that night. Everywhere I looked, I saw reminders of the family I had taken for granted. Ella's drawings on the refrigerator. Family photos on the walls. The life we had built together. For the first time, I realized how much damage I had caused. The next morning, I called Tom repeatedly. No answer. Hours later, a single text message arrived. "Talk to my lawyer." Panic set in. I quickly learned that Tom had already begun taking legal steps. Because of the terms in our prenuptial agreement and the evidence of my emotional affair, he had protected his financial interests. I had always assumed he would forgive me. I was wrong. As the reality of divorce settled in, I turned to Lisa for support. After all, she had encouraged much of my behavior. Her response stunned me. She simply shrugged and said, "You wanted excitement." That was it. No sympathy. No accountability. No support. In that moment, I realized she had been willing to encourage my mistakes but wasn't willing to stand beside me when the consequences arrived. I ended our friendship immediately. But it was far too late. The divorce process moved quickly. Tom sought primary custody of Ella and retained ownership of the florist shop we had built together. I moved into a small apartment and adjusted to a life I never imagined living. The hardest part wasn't losing the house. It wasn't losing the business. It was seeing the confusion in Ella's eyes. She didn't understand why her family had fallen apart. And I had no good answers. Word about the block party spread throughout the neighborhood. Many people had witnessed my public humiliation of Tom firsthand. As details emerged, most of our friends sided with him. I couldn't blame them. My actions had spoken for themselves. Months later, I attended one of Ella's school recitals. That's where I saw Tom again. He looked different. Not happier exactly. Just stronger. More at peace. He sat proudly in the audience, cheering for our daughter. For a moment, I gathered the courage to approach him. "I want to apologize," I said quietly. Tom looked at me and nodded. Then he said something that stayed with me long after he walked away. "I hope you grow, Sarah." That was all. No anger. No insults. No revenge. Just a simple hope that I would become a better person. As I watched him leave, I realized something important. His strength had never been in fighting back. It was in knowing his worth. He refused to stay where he wasn't respected. He refused to tolerate behavior that undermined his dignity. And he left with his self-respect intact. Today, therapy has become a major part of my life. I've spent countless hours examining why I sought validation from someone else. Why I mistook attention for happiness. Why I failed to appreciate the man who had stood beside me for over a decade. The answers aren't always comfortable. But growth rarely is. I still carry guilt for what happened. I probably always will. Yet I'm determined to become a better mother for Ella and a better person overall. She deserves that. Looking back, I understand that the block party wasn't the moment everything fell apart. It was simply the moment the consequences became visible. The real damage had begun long before that, with selfish choices, poor boundaries, and a failure to value what mattered most. I humiliated my husband publicly. But he responded with dignity, self-respect, and quiet determination. And that lesson changed me forever. If this story taught you something about respect, relationships, or personal accountability, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more real-life stories. Thanks for watching. This version is more polished, emotionally engaging, and suitable for a YouTube narration, with stronger hooks, smoother transitions, and a clearer character arc.